I recently dropped my long trip test on the new Tesla Model 3 long-range dual-motor Highland. And in that test, we had disastrous results. I think the results were disastrous, especially considering that we were in for setting a new record when we got to the charger. But when we got to the charger and we connected, we got very slow charging speeds that didn't pick up through the whole charging session. And honestly, I didn't know why we got so low charging speeds. I'm going to get back to that later in this video. But I reached out to Tesla after filming the video before posting it and asking why did we get so low charging speeds. I gave them the time I was there, I gave them the stall I was at, the charging station, the speed, the outside temperature, that the car had preconditioned. I gave them all the information and asked for a statement, and they didn't want to have an official statement. They didn't want to answer with an official statement. So yeah, that's what I said in the video. I reached out to Tesla, no official statement, no official explanation. So I posted a video and I asked you guys what the reason was, and in that video I did get a lot of comments, some of them very good, some of them blaming me, some of them even accusing me for intentionally giving the car bad results for some reason. So in this video, I want to address the comment section and that aspect of my long trip test with the Tesla Model 3 long-range dual-motor Highland. So if you haven't seen my long trip test on that car, I would highly recommend you guys to go check that out. I will link it in the description box down below so you have the full context for this video. But the short recap is I do a long trip test on all the vehicles I have on loan for a week. So I start at my typical starting place in Sleppenden, right outside of Oslo. We drive down to Kristiansand, which is one of the most southern cities in Norway, and then we drive back again. So the distance is 610 kilometers or almost 400 miles. And one of the main goals of the test is to complete this route with the shortest charging time possible. Because of that distance, there isn't any electric car on the market here yet that is able to cover the whole distance without stopping to charge. So it's kind of a competition, it's kind of a test, it's kind of a challenge, but it's also made to illustrate the weaknesses, the strengths of the car, maybe what you can encounter if you're going to take a car on a long trip test. And it's also designed to expose the weaknesses. So we're not only measuring, we're always ranking the car according to the shortest charging time possible, but we're always testing all of these factors. They are important parts of the test. So just because, we get bad results doesn't mean the test is invalid. Does it mean we should do the test again to, give the car a fair chance? Probably. And, without, going further in this video, I'm going to do that with this Tesla Model 3 again. Hopefully, I'm able to get my hands on a car later this summer, in a few weeks maybe, and I'll redo the test. But that doesn't mean this test is invalid, because there's a lot of valuable information from this test that I've learned, that a lot of you guys probably have learned, and viewers coming to this channel watching these videos for the first time are learning. Because especially since Tesla don't have, official PR teams, don't, have any official statements usually. And when I asked them, they didn't want to, state an official statement. It's anybody's guess why these things are the way they are. And that's why it's very useful for you guys who have maybe driven this car for a while now, or maybe have a lot of experience with Teslas, who can give us an explanation to why we got low charging speeds. But the short story is, after about 5 hours on the road, we were in for stopping for our first and only charging session. And because we'd gotten so long on this trip, the furthest of any car, and we went to a supercharger in Foxere, which is right outside of Sandefjord here in Norway, I was really, hoping and excited and anticipating a new record. You can see that from the video. I'm not faking that, guys. I'm like, genuinely, I want these cars to do the best possible, because that's just better for everybody. I don't have any agenda. I don't hate Tesla. They're not my favorite brand, but I try to give every car a fair evaluation. If you go watch my videos, I talk about the positives and I talk about the negatives. And just because it's a Tesla, I'm not going to refrain from talking about the negatives. And for people who think I'm a Tesla hater, go watch a lot of my videos on Volvos and Volkswagens. I hate a lot more on those cars and I criticize them a lot more because in a lot of ways their products are worse than other cars. And you know, I don't hide behind that. I'm not a Volvo hater. You're not going to call me a Volkswagen hater. I don't think anybody has ever called me that. So why just reporting what's happening with the Tesla would you call me a Tesla hater? Well, that's kind of the backside, you know, the dark side of the Tesla fan base is that anybody who's critical to their products or doesn't give them, you know, super reviews will often be, you know, called a hater. But I assure you guys, I'm not a Tesla hater. I like the Tesla Model 3 a lot. I have my review coming up in a few days, so watch that video if you don't believe me. But we got to this charger and we connected to a stall and was quite busy at this charging station. And I was anticipating to get low charging speeds because we arrived there with 4%. And according to the charging curves I could find online, you weren't going to get that peak charging speed before you were like at around 10%, maybe 8 to 10%. And because we were at 4%, I was anticipating to get very low slow charging speeds or low charging speeds because the battery pack voltage is low and maybe the car has, you know, these protective systems not to pump too much amps into the battery at a low state of charge. I've seen this with other electric cars lately where you really don't get that peak charging speed before you're at like 10, maybe even 15 or 20%. So I didn't expect this to be any different. So we connected and it said it was busy and we got 33 kilowatts. And when we were sitting there, there were cars coming and arriving and maybe at around like 10, 12%, the charging station was a little bit fuller than when I arrived there. And I was sitting there and I'm like, why am I not getting more than 33 kilowatts? And at that point in time, I'm like, okay, now I'm expecting to get more, even though the charging station was getting a lot more busy, I was expecting to get a lot more. But the superchargers don't have, you know, any displays to tell you what's going on, so there's no information to have had there. The car didn't tell me like there's an issue with the charger or there's limited charging speed, as other electric cars do. Like I know Audis and other brands will tell you if there's limited charging speed at the site or from a charger. I have had several Audis and I've seen this message several times when there's an issue with the charging station or maybe, you know, where the charging site is at peak capacity. Because even though, you know, these chargers may be rated at 250 kilowatts each, these V3 chargers which I connected to, the site is going to have a peak output, right? Which is determined by the site and the network. Like there were 24 superchargers there. If we do the math quickly, 24 times 250, I mean, sure, this is just the math. That's 6,000 kilowatts. I have never heard of a charging site, and I've worked closely with a lot of charging providers who build charging sites this big around in Norway, and I've never heard of a charging site delivering a peak of 6,000. Usually they're at like 1,200 to maybe 1,500, and the big sites maybe be like 2,000 or 3,000 kilowatts. So I was thinking, okay, so maybe there's a lot of cars here requesting a lot of power, but then when we got to like almost 20%, I'm like, no, there's something wrong here. But then, like, what should I do then? Because when I go to almost 20%, because I was like, oh, I only have a few percentage. It would have taken me a longer time to disconnect, find a new charger, and maybe that charger wouldn't have worked, right? So in my head, I'm like, I possibly could have, you know, changed to other charger that people, you know, told me to do in the comment section, but I realized that possibly too late and it wouldn't have given, you know, any different results. But what we learned here is that when a charger outputs only 33 kilowatts, there is a problem with the charger. Somebody mentioned maybe a faulty temperature sensor. That means, you know, the charger cannot monitor the temperature in the cable, and that means it defaults to 33 kilowatts because that's safe for just a duration of a charging session. You can charge like an hour without that being an issue. And this makes a lot of sense because for a Tesla supercharger to output 250 kilowatts to a Tesla, which is on a 400 volt architecture, it has to output 625 amps, which is a lot of amperage and is much more than the CCS standard limit. So a CCS charger, CCS rated charger on a CCS car can only output 500 amps for a short time period because of heat generation in the cable. it then goes down to 400 amps. But because Tesla superchargers are proprietary technology for Teslas, they can do whatever they want. They don't have to follow the standard because they are their own chargers with their own cars. And then they can output 625 kilowatts. They can do that for a period, and then they can monitor the temperature, and then they can, decrease that amperage. But if the temperature sensor in the cable isn't working, you're not going to get that. So I think that's the best explanation here for what is wrong, because these chargers, the modules, are not in the cabinet. So if you go to, for example, an Alpatronics charger, these boxes, these houses, the modules are in the charger. So for example, a 300 kilowatt charger will have, is that four? Yeah, a 300 kilowatt Alpatronics charger will have 475 kilowatt modules. So if any of those modules break, you're going to lose 75 kilowatts from that peak 300 kilowatts. If all of them break, you're not going to be able to charge there, right? But Tesla superchargers are different because they have, like camp power chargers, they have the modules not in the cabinet, but off somewhere on the site, right? I don't know what the stepping speed of these are, but with the camp powers, it's 25 kilowatts. Right? So, like inherently, because they're allocating I think between four charging dispensers, these Tesla superchargers can allocate the capacity. I don't think there's anything broken with the actual modules, right? It's more likely that the temperature sensor in the cable is faulty, right? It's not able to give any values back to the charging station or to the car, so it can adjust. But either way, guys, like accusing me, that's pretty hardcore. Accusing me for botching the results when I'm documenting everything. I'm showing you this side. Like you guys think very highly of me as an actor if you think I'm faking, like being excited. I was genuinely excited about this car setting a new record, and I still think it can do it in the future. But I think what I learned here, and people watching these videos learn, is that if you get 33 kilowatts, that's a sure sign of something's wrong with the charger. Then try connect to a new one. You may have the same issue, but then just go to a charger until you get the charging speed you're supposed to get. But also, if the charging station is very busy, if a lot of cars are, requesting a lot of speed, you may get limited charging speed. This is the same at every charging station out there. So guys, I just wanted to address that with this video because I think there were a lot of help from the comments, a lot of good comments, but also a lot of people like calling me dumb things, telling me I'm an idiot, and I did it intentionally. No, I honestly didn't know because I wasn't expecting a lot of charging speed. And, I've never experienced this before. I've driven 7 different Teslas the past 4 years, and I've probably done somewhere between 10 and 15,000 kilometers. So I'm not, a power user. I haven't owned a Tesla for several years, but I have a lot of experience with Teslas and other electric cars. I've driven several 100,000 kilometers in the past 4 years in electric cars. So I'm very versed in this, and if I don't know about this, there are sure going to be a lot of people out there who don't know about this. So this is very valuable information. So guys, I just wanted to address the comments because there were a lot of very good comments, but also a few negative comments that I wanted to address and just talk about. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below, and for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys there. Goodbye.